Was it some of his wishes that he be cremated after his death?
Yeah, Mr. Njonjo, as I'm sure a lot of you will know, had a long career as a civil servant. And, he was also a lawyer by training. So he was a man who was very clear about instructions. And a man who was very clear about what he wanted, not just in life, but what he wanted in death as well. And part of those instructions were that we must perform a cremation immediately, almost immediately after his passing. He didn't want any fanfare. He didn't want a lot of ceremony. He didn't want a lot of what goes with funerals and passing of people of his stature. He was very clear that we must cremate him more or less immediately after he passed. And so, as a family, we fulfilled his wishes. We chose to fulfill his wishes, and we have now cremated him. We cremated him at around 10:30 a.m. this morning, and he is now at rest.
Okay. And perhaps how long will that process take? Because I've seen some smoke.
Well, I can't speak towards the process itself because I'm not an expert in it. But suffice to say that I have attended other cremations, and it's quite a quick process. Okay. It's quite a quick process, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And perhaps some would ask, what was his secret for a long life?
He was independent Kenya's first Attorney General, and throughout his long career in that position, he would be by far the second most powerful man in the country after the president. Charles Mugane Njonjo was born in 1920 at Kikuyu in Kiambu district of Central Province. His father, Josiah Mugane, a senior chief in the British colonial administration, sent Njonjo to Kikuyu Primary School and then in 1937 to nearby Alliance High School, then the leading boarding secondary school for Kenyan Africans. Upon successfully completing his studies at Alliance in 1941, Njonjo joined King's College, Budo in Uganda, from which he proceeded to Fort Hare University in South Africa, where he studied law. In 1946, Njonjo left South Africa for Exeter University, England, for postgraduate studies in public administration. Between 1947 and 1950, Njonjo studied at the London School of Economics. While at the LSE, he served as chairman of the East African Students' Union, whose literary secretary at the time was Fitz de Souza, a Kenyan of Goan descent, who would later become the first deputy speaker of independent Kenya's parliament. Njonjo spent the next 4 years studying law, and in 1954 was admitted as a barrister at law to Gray's Inn in London, one of the most prestigious inns of law in England. 2 years before then, on October 20th, 1952, the colonial governor in Kenya, Sir Evelyn Baring, declared a state of emergency throughout Kenya in an effort to combat the Mau Mau armed rebellion which had broken out in parts of Central Province against British rule. That day, many leaders of the only countrywide African political party, the Kenya African Union KAU, including the party's president, Jomo Kenyatta, were arrested, later tried and jailed for their part in the Mau Mau rebellion. After serving their jail terms, Kenyatta and his co-accused would be kept in detention for a number of years. Njonjo returned to Kenya in 1955 and joined the colonial government service as a registrar and quickly rose through the ranks to become Registrar General. As Kenya's independence drew near, promotions for Njonjo would come in a flurry. In 1961, he was made Senior Crown Counsel. The following year, he became Deputy Public Prosecutor. Njonjo's promotions by the colonial government came even as the country was undergoing major changes on the political front. In 1960, the colonial authorities had again allowed the formation of African political parties. Among the new parties would be the Kenya African National Union KANU and the Kenya African Democratic Union KADU. On being released from detention in 1961, Kenyatta would take up the leadership of KANU while Ronald Ngala would become KADU's leader. A constitutional conference held in early 1962 in London agreed to set up a KANU-KADU coalition government in preparation for the last general election to be held in May 1963 before Kenya's independence later that year. In the coalition government formed in May 1962, Kenyatta and Ngala became joint leaders of government, with Kenyatta as Minister of State for Constitutional Affairs and Economic Planning, and Ngala as Minister of State for Constitutional Affairs and Administration. After KANU won the May 1963 general election and Kenyatta became Kenya's first Prime Minister on June 1st, or Madaraka Day, Kenyatta appointed Njonjo as Attorney General.
One day, when we get honest politicians, the Constitution of Kenya will work, and the people of this country will derive benefits as they should. There are some people who are hiding against this. They say there is a decision by judges that the elections could be held next year. But if you go by the Constitution, I believe that we should hold the election this year.
Through my many years, I have dedicated myself to the service of my country, my church, and my fellow men. In the civil service, my constituency of Kikuyu, now Kabete, private sector, through all the boards I have been involved with, and the All Saints Cathedral. I have also dedicated many hours to numerous churches, social enterprises, and educational institutions. I have been very proud and honored to have interacted and worked alongside many talented and gifted people, all of whom have enriched my professional and public life. On these occasions, I am humbled by what I consider to be my greatest blessings, my loving family, which has grown over the years, First of all, my wonderful wife and life companion, Margaret, followed by my children, Wairimu, Elizabeth, Mary, Wambui, and Josiah David. I have also had the greatest joy and privilege of grandchildren. To date, 6 of them, all of whom have the most uplifting effect on my energy and love for life. For this, I am truly grateful to God. I thank you all